You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are only things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you. It's not as harshly as the rest of your family because we're trying to help you be better people, how to increase the quality of your life, learn stuff, all that good stuff. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all this crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. Today we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to talk about her authorship, her books, and some of the stories she tells and how she became an author. Darlene Porter joins us on the show. Her latest book was out, My Lord Husband's Ring, October 26, 2024. We're going to get into it with her, find out more about her and how she writes books, and maybe she can give some people some advice out there. She spent 33 years working as an RM, and all the while she devoted what free time she had from that career, raising 3 rambunctious daughters, to her secret passion of writing. Amid her education at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which resulted in the degree of Bachelor's of Science Nursing and a minor in history, her professors oft commented on her skill with the written word. On her final exam in medieval history, she received an A+. The note scrawled across the top of the page was, "You should be a writer." And now she is and has been. She lives in Southern California with her husband's extended family. Welcome to the show, Darlene. How are you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Voss. I am very well, thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Give
us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
DarlenePorter.com. And Porter is spelled the way it sounds.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in your new book?
This is this historical romance set in South Central France in the early 1500s. I noticed that most of the historical romances that I've been reading and enjoying for decades were located in England in the 1800s, Regency and that sort of thing, and at Downton Abbey, etc. And I decided I wanted to do something that might stand perhaps a little above, definitely aside from the usual crowd. And I looked and studied French history, and I found that there was a lot of very interesting activity going on at that time. It was still the time of knights in shining armor, jousts, and deadly sword fights between mortal enemies. And I thought that would be a fine place to put a good love story that also had a little spice to it, if you understand what I mean.
Spice.
Spice.
Those romance. I don't know if you could turn the volume down a little bit on your end. I'm getting a feedback. But spice, huh? I think most romance novels, they like the spice in there a little bit, maybe.
Indeed. Otherwise it gets rather boring.
Well, life is boring, so you need a little spice in your life. That's what
Indeed. I also found that there was a very interesting story that is true about the King of France, King Henry II, who had a joust to celebrate his daughter's wedding to the King of France. But as he was participating in the festivities, a sliver of a lance went through his faceplate, punctured his eye, and entered his brain. So this culture was indeed quite violent.
Yeah. Yeah. They played hard back in those days.
Yeah, they played
um,
hard. Yeah.
Definitely played hard. So I imagine some of your study of history in college and different things helps you weave the tales of your stories you tell.
Indeed, indeed. I do extensive research for any of the stories that I work on. I I enjoy the process.
Mhm.
The stories, I know a lot of authors are meticulous in writing out an outline and being very careful with their plotting.
Mhm.
But I'm of the group like J.R.R. Martin
Mhm.
and the lady who wrote Outlander, that I just sit down and the action just pours out of my brain.
Wow. So talk to us about how many books you have, and tell us about some of the other books you have.
The other books I have, one is what they call creative nonfiction. I
Okay.
did a lot of genealogy studies, and I came upon one of my great times 10 grandmothers who immigrated in 1635 from England to the United States.
Hmm.
And her story started with, as earth shattering is the transition of red comet in 1618 that
Mhm.
influenced the whole world. People were terrified. They were afraid to go out of their houses. They
Mhm.
thought it was the end of the world. They thought it was the sign of the end of the Stuart line of English kings. And by George, the king who was in charge at that time did indeed end up being one of the last Stuart kings. And from there, she departed from her home knowing she would never return and brought her family across the ocean, settled first in Boston, where she was exposed to the puritanical government there and was far too uncomfortable, and moved on down the road, so to speak, with Dr. Hooker as he settled the new land called Connecticut.
Ah.
And the action follows that. And these are people and these are things that really happened. And the only thing that is creative about it is the dialogue.
Oh, there you go.
So
So
I've had
historical
people
fiction per
complain.
se.
Yes, I've had people complain about, oh, why did you kill this person? And I said, I'm sorry, that's what happened. I can't make up history if I'm going to follow the genre.
That's
And that's
true.
the first one I published in 2017.
Uh huh.
But my heart always belonged to my Lord husband's ring,
Ah.
because this is the story that first arrived in my heart, half formed when I was a teenager.
Ah. Is that when you
Baby
started
story.
writing, or started seeing you had a knack for writing?
Yeah.
Ah.
I had a crush on a mysterious, dark young man in my high school. And this story evolved from that crush. And
Ah.
that crush continues because we've now been married 52 years.
Wow. That's a story right there.
Indeed.
There you go. Wow.
So
Um.
there's that story. And then the next one that evolved out of my brain was one that was sparked by the story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and her husband, Robert Browning.
Mhm.
This actually happened in the 1850s when she and he fell in love with her poetry and he started writing her, and the two of them fell in love through their letters.
Ah.
And as this, I don't want to tell too much of their story because that is what's evolved through the book that I wrote.
Hmm.
And I had so much fun with these characters that I said, okay, let's follow them on their next part of their life. So these characters then, that was what happened in my book that I named I Will Always Love You. Bit of a catchy title, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to find it on Amazon, you have to put "I Will Always Love You" and then Darlene Porter, because there's so many other books that have that name. But I couldn't change it. I love that title.
Love is love. It can't be denied, as they
And the
say.
very last book that I've written, that was published, I believe, February of this year. And that one is called Forever and Always Yours. And that is the story of the couple from "I Will Always Love You" as they travel to the wild and untamed West, specifically Tucson, Arizona. And what happens to them there? Gunfights, horse chases, those kind of interesting things. So, yes, I do have a little violence in my story.
What's going on there? Who hurt you? I'm just teasing.
I'm just a respectful, quiet little lady with a dark side.
With a dark side. Don't mess with her. Don't mess with her. Dark side. Don't mess with her. So how do you develop the characters in your book? My Lord Husband's Ring sounds a little personal. Is there personal characters in there for you?
Well, as I said, I did style the hero after, as I say, who eventually became my husband. Didn't actually marry till after college, but as the story progresses, I think that the love that I have for my husband comes through, and the two of them experience what I consider, perhaps I'm hoping, more of a real love than just two-dimensional. And I had so much fun. My Lord Husband's Ring, I had so much fun weaving back and forth the presence of the signet ring that he gave her the night of the massacre of his family, in the family dynasties. Gives her the ring as sort of a, I'm going off to die, and I give you this to remember me.
Wow.
And as the story progresses, that ring pops up here and there in various places. And finally, when at the happy ending, it's there also.
And so what's the future of books? Do you have any books that you have planned? Anything coming out? Anything in the works?
I have done the research for, and I have several scenes plotted out in my brain about the third story of the couple from the first book about the cowboys. And so that would be a third one about what happens in Tucson in the wild and crazy history of the place.
What more should we know that I should ask you about that we need to know about what you do there when you're writing and how you write? How do you write? Do you sit down for an hour a day? How do you approach when you want to put something down to paper, how do you approach it and manage it as you go through it?
I compose it in my mind. A lot of it is like when I'm driving somewhere. Living in Southern California, a person tends to spend a lot of time in their car.
That's very true.
Behind the wheel, and the traffic is just atrocious. And so that's when I plot out a lot of the things that happen. And then I go home and I'll sit at my computer and start the scene. And I find myself in the middle of the night when the house is quiet and no one is about, even the dog is asleep. I will tap into that and go like crazy. I've stayed up all night writing. And once I get into the zone, it's look out. I'll go back and I'll rewrite it, but the fun part is that 3 a.m. session.
Yeah. It's something where you create the private time, the time that you can do stuff, and I like the night too because everyone's quiet. There's usually no one bugging me. The email is pretty quiet, And it's like the one time you can kind of think, maybe soak up life, all that sort of things, and everything else. Do you think you're going to stick with the romance genre?
I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me an outlet to work on those spicy scenes. That's always fun. And then every once in a while, I'll enter into that violence too.
Oh, you like the violence?
What can I say? Sword fights, gun battles. What can I say?
That's what makes Hollywood movies work.
Yeah. Those brawls between brothers can get pretty rowdy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the more brothers, the better. Johnny, the cowboy, the main cowboy, he's got 3 brothers, so they go at it in the story.
Ah.
So it's a lot of fun.
Bada bing, bada boom. One thing I was going to ask you is, I believe you set this in France, and what time period is it in?
Early 1500s,
mm-hmm.
before the advent of gunpowder.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still into armor and
mm-hmm.
the swords and the daggers.
Mm-hmm. Was there a reason?
And the ladies' dresses.
Oh, ladies' dresses. Is that why Is that why you picked the time period?
Indeed. I do have an example of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, the lady in her fancy dress. And I'm quite proud of the cover. This is the scene of him saying goodbye to her. That happens like in the first chapter or so.
That's
saying
the one
goodbye.
on the cover.
Him thinking he's on his way to his death.
And that's the cover of the book then?
Yes. Yes. I like all of my books to have artwork that represents scenes in it, not just, hairy man with no shirt on.
There's a lot of those that are out there, isn't there?
There are. And like I said, I want my works to stand out.
Yeah, they definitely do. And what was the other question I had for you here? On the, let's see, any interest in this title can find a detailed review on a professional website. I don't know what that means. How do you feel? What are some of the opinions of your work? What do you think?
I have a professional review on Pacific Book Review. Oh, it's actually the perfect term. The perfect title is Pacific Review of Books. And there's a review there that was solicited to be objective. Mm-hmm. And I just love it. It's a wonderful review. Reflects the story, gives you a little bit of a preview of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that also, I am just about to add that to my personal website, darleneporter.com. I have full color pictures of the colors of the illustrations of the book. Mm-hmm. And the pictures of the ladies are authentic because they are engravings that have been colorized of queens from the time period.
So great stuff there. And you really love the historical era. Do you like it because it seems like a romantic period, even though there was a lot of violence and spicy stuff? I mean, do you like still the romanticization? It seemed like things were more formal back then and other things.
Oh, yes. More formal. The separation of classes was very much evident. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted my character to recognize that even the lower classes were people with lives and loves and loss. And I wanted her to get involved with the lower class people, the serfs, the peasants, that a couple took her in and gave her sanctuary when she was sure that there were murderers chasing her, being the last survivor from the massacre at the castle.
Wow.
So I wanted there to be a kind of a manifestation of both classes.
Mm-hmm. So in your other series of books, the one that you did, I Will Always Love You, Forever and Always Yours. That's basically
Yes.
I Was Always Love You 1 and 2. And why did you settle on Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning as the feature of that?
A good part of it had to do with him, the poet, Robert Browning, proposing to Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and her father refusing, and then cutting off all communication between the two. And finally what happened, and this is what won my heart over, finally what happened was he broke into the manor, because the father was rich, and so was Emily, and he broke into the tower room that she was living in, and he freed her from that confinement and whisked her off to Italy, and they got married and lived happily ever after.
Wow. Happily ever after. What do you hope people come away from when they read your books?
I want them to come away with a warm feeling of that's the way I want life to be. There will not be anything but happy endings in my book. So ladies, if you're ready to invest the time, you won't be disappointed at the end.
Happy endings are always good.
Happy endings. Now, that doesn't mean every single character, survives to the end, but it will be a happy ending, I promise you.
If you get stabbed by a sword, that's probably not going to be a happy ending. You're probably going to be unhappy.
Unless it's the bad guy.
Yeah, unless it's the bad guy. Yeah, I guess that's, good point. When you're writing your novels or thinking about them, do you think of Hollywood characters, Hollywood actors or actresses that might play in them?
Yes, indeed. I noticed that the people in France have a tendency of having dark hair and dark eyes and lighter skin complexion. And having been a fan of Game of Thrones, I couldn't help but picture the actor who played Jon Snow. His name is Kit Harington. And of course he has swordplay in his repertoire. I can definitely see him being the Dominique of this story. And the girl also needs to have dark hair and dark eyes because she's just as French as Dominique. And Mila Kunis, who is from that 70s show, I can see her playing the part of Lady Marie.
Oh, that would work out pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. All that good stuff that you guys are working on there. So what would be your advice to wannabe writers, people out there that maybe are thinking about getting in the business of writing books, or maybe you're interested, or maybe they think they want to be a writer, but they're not sure if they can?
Do it.
Do it.
Sit down and write it down. My 5-year-old grandson, he has a favorite creature called a sloth, and he sat down and he wrote a book. And if a 5-year-old can do it, anybody can do it. And the interesting thing is the story grabs you and pulls you in. That's how I felt it. If you've got the writing gene, I guess that's how it's going to be, because my daughter that does not have this 5-year-old, she had inherited the gene. Only one out of 3, but that's okay. And so she feels that tug also to sit down and just write it. And if you've got that tug, go for it. Enjoy it. And then eventually the time might come where your significant other might say, hey, let's do this. Let's send it in. And don't be frustrated by rejection. That's only part of life. And sooner or later, by hook or by crook.
By hook or by crook, it'll happen.
Indeed.
It's so important to just to start writing, write on a consistent daily basis. Do you use any sort of mechanisms like that? I used to use a thing where we would write an hour a day, and I had an accountability crew that we would all try and do that and hold each other accountable. Do you recommend any of that sort of stuff, or writing daily?
What I usually did and still do is I have a special. It's a notebook, but it's bound with leather that I keep track of the time and the word count. And that helps me. I've had marathon sessions where I've written 1,000 words and get a lot accomplished. And to look back at it and page through it, it makes you feel very accomplished that you've gotten that done.
I think more people have the ability to write books inside them. I think, it's something everyone should try. Even the art of writing and learning to write, practicing it is really important. And it's kind of like a muscle. If you practice it, you keep writing stuff, it will make all the difference for you in the world.
Yes, indeed. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
As we round out, give people a final pitch out to reach out to you, get to know you better, where to buy the books, et cetera, et cetera.
The books are available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And you can also find more information about them and see the pictures, full color pictures on my website, darleneporter.com. I am in process of getting the reviews. I have a review for the book about the Puritans. The name of that book is called Lives of Our Mothers, a true telling of the lives of women in Puritan New England. That review is available on the website. There's also a Pacific review of books regarding I Will Always Love You, and also a Pacific review of books for My Lord Husband's Ring. The last one, the review hasn't arrived yet because, as I say, it was just published. I believe it was February it was published.
Awesome stuff. Good stuff there. Thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks, Amonis, for tuning in. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold. My Lord's Husband's Ring, out October 26, 2024 by Darlene Porter. Thanks, Amonis, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.